Please welcome David Pisarra.
Well, I suppose if I got the job I wanted at Montgomery Ward's, I never would have left Illinois. If I hadn't left Illinois, I probably never would have become a radio announcer. If I didn't do that, I probably never would have been an inspirational, motivational speaker for General Electric, which led me to become an actor in Hollywood. From there, I became a union president. That led me to become governor of the state of California. From there, I became president of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Ronald Reagan. That's his story. He didn't get what he wanted, but I think the silver lining for him, at least, was to become president of the United States. We all have those moments when we get not exactly what we wanted. The question is, how do we view that? Do we take that as an excuse to not move forward? Do we use that as something to beat ourselves up with? Do we not use what we are given to the best of our abilities and find the silver lining? For him, he took each time he failed and moved forward. Didn't get a job? Went and did something different. That didn't work out so well? Went and did something different. We've all been there. I've had business losses. I've had relationship losses. Sometimes they're really, really painful. For me, I get really angry. I don't know about you, but when I don't get what I want, God has it out for me. I don't know what I ever did wrong. I can never get what I want. I had one of these experiences. I was a lawyer about 5 years in practice, and this guy comes to me and says, "Hey, Dave, I'm starting an ambulance company. I need somebody to do the paperwork. Can you help with that?" "Sure. Here's my fee." "Well, I don't really have any money for you. I'll give you a piece of the company, and actually, I'd like it if you would invest." Well, like I said, I was 5 years in practice and greener than I am today. So I looked at the way in which ambulance companies make money, and I saw these things print money. There's no negotiating with an ambulance company. You have an accident, you get a heart attack, they just pick you up, take you away, and then you get a bill. That's a really good business model. So I looked at it and I said, this makes sense. All right, I'll do the paperwork. I knew what was involved. It wasn't going to be that much work. I could do this. And yeah, all right, I'll give you a little starter cash. Let's get going. And for my work and for my starter cash, I was supposed to have 25% of the company. And I did. For the first 3 months. Then he comes to me, he says, "Dave, things aren't working as well as I wanted. We got this other investor on the line, and if he's going to come in, we're going to get more money, but I need more money now to make payroll. Can you give me an extra 20 grand? And I said, "No, I'm done. That's it. I gave you what I got, and here's our deal." He said, "Well, without that money, with the new money coming in, I'm just going to have to reduce down your percentage." Well, what do you mean you're going to reduce down my percentage? Well, in order for me to get more money in, I've got to give somebody else more, so we're all going to have to get readjusted, and you're going to go from 25%, you're going to go down to 9%. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. You need a new lawyer, because I'm now resigning, and we'll see where this goes. And so the new investor came in, and I got crammed down to 9%. And about 6 months after that, I'm driving by the ambulance company, and there's no ambulances. Now, we had 3 of them. They're big, they're white, they're red. They're right there. Can't miss them. Where'd my ambulances go? I call around. I'm like, hey, has anybody seen Scott? Last time we saw Scott, he was headed south. What do you mean south? Like San Diego south? A little bit further. Scott decided that it would be a good idea to take the 3 ambulances that we purchased, cross the border and sell them here, and then take the cash and move to Vegas. To say I was angry would be a volcanic understatement. I was ready to just tear this guy apart. I was so mad. Then I get a letter. I get a letter from the Employment Development Department of California that says, there seems to be some accounting issues with your payroll taxes. They seem to have not been paid. Oh boy. That's a felony. That's a felony that makes my law practice go, goodbye, real quick. And I am mad, and I am freaking out, and I am scared. And that weekend, my buddy Paul decides that he's going to take me, and we're going to go jet skiing at this river, or this lake in Riverside. And it's one of those lakes that's got a little island in the middle, and you just take the jet skis and you go around and around and around. So I'm out there, and I am on this jet ski, and I'm going into the waves and into the waves, and oh, that Weasley scumbag. Oh, I just wanna, boom. Wait a second. I'm only got 9% of the company. I'm only liable if I'm 10% or more. Woo! Thanks, buddy. Did me the greatest favor of all time. You're now on the hook for the payroll taxes. I'm seeing you. That was the silver lining. When I went from 25% to 9%, it was horrible at the time. I felt so betrayed, so abused. What was I going to do? I can't believe I got taken advantage of like this. And 6 months later was my best moment. Because now I'm not guilty of felony. I'm not responsible for that money. What a great silver lining to have. And it took me probably 2 or 3 months of anger to get to the point where I could see that. So like Ronald Reagan, sometimes bad things happen that we think are bad at the time that set us on a path that's actually for our benefit. So the message for us is, how do we find those silver linings? How do we change our perception? What do we do to get to the point where we can actually see what the benefit is? For me, because I have hot Italian blood and I'm a little bit angry sometimes, like when you take 16% of the company away from me, I need to get on a jet ski. I needed to be on a machine that I could take my anger out on. I could do this on the waves, on the jet ski. And I could see something. I could work the anger through. When my boyfriend split up with me because he was in love with somebody else, I was a little hot under the collar. Until one day, we're exchanging the dog that we still share. I go to pick up the dog. So, how was your weekend? Now, my ex-boyfriend his skin color is about this white, and his hair is about that red. And his boyfriend, his new boyfriend, same thing, this white and this red. And they're living in San Francisco. Now, if you've been in San Francisco, you know, like Mark Twain said, the coldest summer he's ever had, or the coldest winter he's ever had, was the summer in San Francisco. So I turn to my boyfriend and I say, how was your weekend? Oh my God. It was so hot in San Francisco, we could only stay outside for 15 minutes. said no one ever in the history of humanity, except for my ex. And it was at that moment when I realized that this guy who thinks 15 minutes in the sun is painful and too hot is completely wrong for me. He's like this. He wants to be in a screening room watching a movie about somebody jet skiing. I want to be on the jet ski. Got it. Oh my God, all my anger went away. Like that. As soon as I realized that that's what the issue was, that it really wasn't about me as a person or him as a person. It was about we were just two totally different people. We had so little in common. No wonder we didn't work out. It's those moments when we can see what's really going on that allows the silver lining to come through. So for me, being able to see that we weren't meant to be together allowed me great freedom. It allowed me to then move on to enjoy my life and not have that anger, not have to be upset with somebody. So I'd like to do a little exercise with you guys to just kind of like give an example of how to change our perception. And it's a really easy one. All we got to do is close our eyes. Just close your eyes for a couple seconds. And when you open them, I want you to look around and note how much purple you see. Look around. There's a lot of purple here. But we didn't notice it until you pointed out to us. And it's the same thing with those silver linings. We have to be able to change our perception, to step back. Let the anger go over here, or the hurt, or the resentment, and see what was really going on. Because maybe there's something in there for us that we couldn't see before. But if we're willing to step out of where we've been, we can see something different. And we can let that go. I know for me, when I let that anger go against Scott, it was incredibly freeing. When I let that anger go against my ex-boyfriend, it was unbelievably freeing, and there was a weight off my shoulders, and I was now allowed to move on with my life. So for you, what are you holding on to? What's the thing that's still eating at you that you don't want to let go of? And how can we put that over here and step back and be like, what was really going on there? What was my role in that? What was their role in that? What was my role with Scott? Well, I didn't protect myself well enough. Okay. Was he a lying, cheating, scheming, a couple other words? Absolutely. Should I have seen that? Maybe, maybe not. But should I have done a better job protecting myself? Yes. That's the lesson. So going forward, when I go into new partnerships, I go in with much wider eyes. I see things I didn't see before. One of the biggest lessons I learned from that experience was, I do not trust you if you don't have friends more than 6 months old. I didn't see that. He was this charming, gregarious, outgoing salesman guy. I mean, he could get people to give him a couple $1 million. I thought, oh, he must be a great guy, right? I mean, come on, he's a good salesman. But it was only looking back that I saw, oh, you know what? He didn't know anybody for more than 6 months. That should have been a giant red flag for me. But it wasn't. But it is now. It is now. If I ask you a question like, hey, who's your oldest friend? And you're like, oh, I don't talk to anybody from the old country. I don't see anybody from kindergarten, grammar school, high school, college. Oh, they're all dead to me. I know people like that. I don't talk to them. I don't want them in my life. They're bad juju. There's something wrong. They're going through too many things. They're alienating too many people. Now, I always answer that question when people ask me, who's your oldest friend? I'm like, well, Robert White and I have known each other since we were in diapers together. Not the same diaper, thankfully. We were both in diapers. We lived across the street from each other. I still see him. I still reach out to him, not as much as I should. But I've learned that that's a hallmark of, can you maintain a long-term relationship? Because if you can't maintain a good relationship with somebody, there's something wrong. That was the silver lining I learned from losing a chunk of money and a bunch of time. The silver lining I learned with my boyfriend, we had gone jet skiing. It was one of our first dates. Go out to that same lake that I was at earlier. And there's like 15 of us. We're barbecuing, and there's hot dogs and hamburgers, and there's kids running around, there's dogs playing in the lake, and everybody's having a great time. And at the end of it, we're driving back. And I'm like, so did you have a good time? He's like, yeah, it was all right. Want to do it again? No. Red flag, hello, warning sign, right there. Should have seen it, but I didn't. But now I do. Now when I'm getting involved with people, I ask the questions and I pay attention to the answers. That was the silver lining for me in that relationship. The question for you is, look back. What were the lessons that you could have or should have or might have learned? And how do you apply those today? Because it's really all about being able to learn and then apply in the future. Because our goal is, when you go through things in life, learn from them. Otherwise, you're just going to keep repeating the same thing, and nobody wants to do that. So how do we do that going forward? Well, there's the inventory process. 3 columns. Who am I mad at? What happened? What's my part in it? That's what I used. That's where I was able to see, oh, I was the one that wasn't protecting myself. I was the one that being too much of a people pleaser. I was the one that was so enamored with the idea of being, oh, I'm corporate counsel. Woo. Yeah, meanwhile, I left myself open to be abused. But when I put it on paper and I see what really went on there, oh, there's lessons to be learned. I've done that same process with writing the story. When I was going through that breakup, there were 2 things I did. Now, we had purchased a house together. It was this dinky little house. It was about 800 square feet on a 7,500 square foot lot. So I had a huge backyard. I have a very small dog. But I have a huge backyard that the small dog really enjoyed. But it hadn't been touched in years. So the earth was like rock. But I've got all this anger. So what do? I went and I rented a rototiller. I spent 2 weeks rototilling out my anger. By the end of that 2 weeks, I was ready to hear the message of, oh, we're not really suited for each other. And the other thing I did was I journaled a lot. I wrote stories. For me, pen to paper is one of the biggest keys to getting insight into who we are. And I find that it doesn't work as well when I'm at a computer. I find that when I actually pick up a pen, have a cup of coffee, have a journal, and start writing, things come out that I wasn't aware of. And that when those things come out, then I can actually see the silver lining. I can see what was wrong. I can see where did I fail. And how do I fix that in the future? I don't know why that is. All I know is that, for me, there's something that happens on a very kinesthetic level with the pen and the paper that doesn't happen when I'm typing on a computer. I think part of it is that it slows me down. I type about 70 words a minute. Good thing, I'm a writer. I've got to be able to get the words out. But when I want to get to that really deep stuff, the stuff that's emotional, what's really driving me, those core issues that are kind of buried in the cat litter box that I don't really want to dig up and look at, the pen and paper is what really does it for me. And I would suggest that it can help you. Because when we're willing to put pen and paper and go slow, things can bubble up. And we can see what's really going on. We're done. Okay. Perfect. Because I'm just going to wrap up then. My little dog is a dachshund. He's a long-haired dachshund. He's got floppy ears and furry paws. He's about that long and about that tall. And we walk a lot because you got to walk a dachshund a lot. About a year ago, one of my friends comes to me and he's like, Dave, I got 3 kids. It's the middle of the month. I don't have rent. I don't have any money to feed these kids. Can I borrow $100? Sure. Here's $100. Pays me back. Month 1, here's $20. Oh, great, thanks. Month 2, here's $20. Month 3, he skips. Month 4 and 5, he pays me. He owes me $20. I said I'm Italian. I don't forget this stuff. Where's my $20? I see you on Instagram traveling to Europe with that new movie you did. Where's my $20? Oh, you're taking your kids to Christmas? You're buying them stuff at Toys R Us? Where's my $20? But I don't approach him about it. I just kind of let it gnaw at me, and I'm kind of like, There's something kind of satisfying about like, oh, I've got something on this guy. So I'm walking my dog, and I walk right by his apartment. And it sparks that, oh, he still owes me that $20. I keep walking, and I realized, oh, he just referred over that client. That was a $5,000 client. Oh, right. And then there was that other one. Yeah, that was a $10,000 client. I'm not so worried about my $20 anymore. But it takes me time and effort to see what's really going on. I nursed that anger, that resentment over $20 measly dollars. For what? 6 months? 9 months? Meanwhile, he's doing all this nice stuff for me. He's referring me business. I don't need to hang on to things. What I need is to get to that silver lining quicker. And that's what I'm working on. Because I'm trying to become more the optimist and less the pessimist. Because when I'm worried about the $20, what am I really worried about? Is that going to make any difference in my life? No. I'm not losing my house. I'm not losing my dog. I'm not starving. The car's not being taken away. The office isn't going under over $20 measly dollars. It's my ego that's involved there. It's what's mine. You wronged me. Meanwhile, he's doing all this great stuff for me. Now, I want to get to be the guy who doesn't worry about that, who just sees the silver linings whenever I can. I started with Ronald Reagan, and Reagan was famous for telling this one story, and as Ed Meese said, if I've heard this story once, I've heard it 1,000 times. And Reagan used to tell the story of the psychiatrist that had a set of parents bring 2 children. One child was an optimist, and one child was a pessimist. So the psychiatrist's job is to try and get the pessimist to be a little more optimistic and the optimist to be a little more realistic. So what he does is he takes the kids down to the horse stables. And there's 2 horse stables. They're both full of manure. And the psychiatrist says, "Congratulations, boys. Happy birthday." And the pessimist goes, "Oh my God, this is so horrible. This is my birthday present? You got to be kidding me. What did I ever do wrong? I can't believe that you would treat me this way. Why would you do that to me?" And the optimist kid is running in, and he's like, "Go! There's got to be a pony in here somewhere." That, for me, is who I want to be. And that's what I would love for you to be. Find the pony when you can. Take a look at the big pile of manure. Because we all have them. We've all got those experiences that we're not really willing to let go of. And let them go. Find the pony. There's a silver lining in there somewhere. It really is possible. You know, in the movie Hello, Dolly, at the beginning of the movie, Dolly walks in and she's trying to convince Horace Van der Gelder, the store owner, that he should be more generous and more giving. And over the course of the play and the movie, he softens. He becomes more human. But in the beginning of it, it was always, Horace Van der Gelder, my ex-husband, my late husband, used to always say, money is like manure. Piled up, it just stinks. It needs to be spread around, encouraging young things to grow. And by the end of the movie, Horace Van der Gelder is saying to his clerks, boys, like I've always said, money is like manure. It needs to be spread around, encouraging young things to grow. The worst things that ever happen to us, the manure of our life, can become the best things if we choose them. Thank you.
Okay, folks, if you have a question, we'd love it if you'd raise your hand. A mic will be brought to you, and if you would stand, hold the mic really close to your mouth. It's those unbelievable hot close. And you can ask your question, and we can get more wisdom from this gentleman. Any questions in the audience? No? How to? It's impossible to make ponies have manure.
David, can I make a suggestion that you give those three things on the paper again? That was a very good thing.
Sure. The three-column format that I use is, who am I mad at? You know, I started with the obvious one, Mom. And then it's, why am I mad at? Like list out, what did she do that's made me upset? And then what was my part in that? You know, so for me, it was always, I wasn't the neatest kid. So it was always, she was yelling at me, my room isn't made up. Well, when I look at that, it's like, okay, well, you're not being a really responsible person. So then when I see that, it's like, what's the lesson she's trying to teach? It's like, oh, she's trying to teach me responsibility. I don't have to be mad anymore over that. And that's the sort of lesson that I learned using that three-column format of, who am I mad at? Why am I mad at them? And then what's my part in that?
I really appreciated that you pointed out that things can be really, really painful and really, crap or shit, she said. And yet, there's something there for us always.
Thank you. I find that there, almost everything that happens to us in life, there's a way to see what the benefit is. There's few things in life that really are just pure abject bad on an individual level.
Thank you. Could you give us a few words about your journaling, maybe the topics, was it historical or what you expect in the future, or anything you'd like to tell us? Please?
Sure. My journaling depends very much on where I'm at emotionally. So frequently I start off with, if I'm in a good place, just the basics of what have I done this today. Took the dog for a walk, ran into Joe, had a conversation. But when I'm in a bad place, it's writing about who I'm mad at. So it's taking that same basic format and digging deeper into it. Because I can't always get from mom, bedroom, responsibility in those three columns without a lot of other work. So it's really digging deep.
Question in the back and one here. Right there. Hi, David. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah. You were special. That's why I came up this morning. That was a great message. Can you perhaps let us know when you find out what your part in it, what is your next step? After you know and you surrender to, oh yeah, this is my part in it, what do you do next?
Frequently I have to apologize is the first thing I have to do. But then it's a matter of looking at the behavior and what has to change. For me, it was like whether it was dealing with Scott in the business or whether it was my boyfriend and dealing with that relationship, it was I have to change the way I'm approaching people and interacting with them. And am I taking care of myself and protecting my needs? So out of whatever that lesson is, there becomes growth steps. There's work to be done to prevent it from happening again. I got to make the amends, and then I got to prevent it from happening again.
David, you mentioned friendship and long-term friends, and your journey of discovery seems to be rather individualized. I didn't hear you mention things like long-term therapy, which I'm not a fan of. Or talking to friends or support groups. Have you been through any of that process to get to where you are today?
I have been through all of that. There's lots of therapy. There's hundreds of thousands of dollars of therapy. I could buy a house with what I spent on therapists. I'm sure he did. But one of the big things for me is that support network of my friends, because we do things together. When you're out jet skiing with like 5 other guys and you're barbecuing, yes, there's a lot of trash talking that's going on, but for me there was also a lot of those therapists and lawyers, we both call it the same thing. It's that doorknob moment. It's when the conversation is almost over, they're just about to leave, that you get really vulnerable, that you say what's really going on. And that's what I have found has happened in my life through those jet ski trips, through the road trips, through the skiing trips. And that's all friendship based, because I have to have that. And what I found is that particularly with men, we will take all day to get comfortable enough to say that one thing that's bothering us. And I think that only happens for me when I've had a long relationship with somebody and I feel comfortable and I feel safe. Anyone else?
Anyone else? Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure being here. Thank you.
He flew in today for this morning, and he's flying out this afternoon.
Yeah.
So we are really lucky.
Yeah. Thank you.